Benjamin Dixon Show is only possible with listener support. Go to www.thebenjamindixonshow.com to register for our blog and join the Progressive Army.
Welcome to the Benjamin Dixon Show. I am your host, Benjamin Dixon. Today is Thursday, December 12th, 2019. Thank you so much for joining us. Today is Election Day in the UK, across the pond, where the Conservative Party leader and the Prime Minister, Boris Johnson, is trying his very best to hold on to power against the resurgent Labour Party headed by Jeremy Corbyn. It is, in a sense, we're looking from across the pond. We're looking very closely to see the mood there, not because it is a bellwether for what's going to happen here, but out of solidarity for working people across the globe. The Conservative Party, much like the conservative movement here in the United States, is seeking to extract. Let's be nicer just for a second. They're looking to extract as much as they possibly can from the people of the UK, particularly where it comes to the NHS, the National Health Services, what their version of what we would call Medicare for all. And in their Brexit negotiations and their trade negotiations with the United States, they have considered putting that on the auctioning block, putting it up for consideration. So what we're trying to get here in the United States, the Conservative Party there is trying to get rid of or privatize, because there's so much money to be made in providing health care for sick people. There's so much. They look at the United States and they see the profit margins in the United States, and they cannot believe that there's a place on the globe that allows you to exploit the sick and the dying. And so the Conservative Party there is like, well, hey, if we are going to get Brexit done and we have to put NHS on the auctioning block, then by all means, we will allow Donald Trump and his kids to chop it up and to distribute it to all of the healthcare providers or healthcare industry here in the United States, and show the Brits how to get as much profit as they possibly can out of the sick and the dying, out of patients with cancer, children with leukemia. We went over this yesterday. It is completely unfathomable that we have a system that allows for the most profit possible to be extracted out of the sickest people in our country. And that is what is at stake across the pond on Election Day today. Then also, not only that, but also it's almost a bellwether of how we are shifting, or the state of leftist movements across the globe. We have seen in 2016, we saw the state of right-leaning authoritarian movements across the globe. We see that they are alive and well. We see that they are a force to be reckoned with. We see it, and not to jump too far off of the conversation about the UK, but one thing that surprises me is the ability of some of my friends on the left to see the right-wing authoritarianism in so many places, but they don't see the coordinated effort by people like Vladimir Putin. I'm not going to say Russia, because Russia is not monolithic, and that's one of the pejoratives. That's a word that has been reduced to a pejorative, very nationalistic, rhetoric and propaganda by the United States to refer to anything and everything from Russia as the boogeyman Russia. But it just surprises me, notwithstanding that, it surprises me that there's very little conversations. Well, let me be fair. I'm surprised by how many people intentionally ignore the resurgence of right-wing authoritarianism and white supremacy that is coordinated. One of the coordinators, one of the preeminent players in that global resurgence is Vladimir Putin. And we saw in 2016 the efficacy, the power, they are here and they are strong. If anyone thought that we were making progress on the global stage towards a more egalitarian society, less capitalism and more of a system where we take care, egalitarianism, like I already said, we saw in 2016 that that's anything but the case, and that can't be taken for granted. And so now in 2019, with this race in the UK, and then most certainly 2020 with the race here in the United States, if we get the right Democratic nominee, we will see the answer. We will see the answer to the right-wing authoritarianism that has been spreading across the globe. And this is just one of those elections that will be an indicator of how strong leftist movements are across the globe. And we need them. We need them to be strong, not just for the sake of ideological leanings and tendencies, but for the sake of working people. I mean, part of the right wing authoritarianism, this is the other thing that escapes me with some of my friends on the left. Part of the right wing authoritarianism that we're seeing and the white supremacy that we're seeing spread across the globe is embedded in it capitalism, but not just oligarchical capitalism and laissez-faire capitalism, right? The ability to extract as much wealth as they possibly can from their working class without any regard to any rules or regulations, without any type of concern of distribution of power, economic or political power, led by oligarchs. I mean, this is literally what we saw a massive resurgence in. And actually, let me rephrase that. It has been a steady continuation. It has been a steady continuation. And Vladimir Putin and Russia, they are most certainly on the front line of this, along with the United States. That's why I kind of laugh when everyone's like, oh, Russia is, the enemy of the United States. No, they're not. I mean, don't get me wrong. We have competing foreign policy goals, but at the core of the United States and at the core of Russia is a capitalistic system that benefits oligarchs. Of course, there's varying differences in terms of outright authoritarianism versus the appearance of democracy here in the United States. Yeah, there are subtle differences like that. But at the core of both nations right now, it is capitalism to the service of oligarchs. So the fundamentals, while we may disagree on the periphery and, while we may disagree on how, or rather there's a significant difference in how much dissent can be given from the average person in Russia versus here in the United States, at the core, our systems are operating very similarly, just like China. So the election in the UK today is really it is in a way a bellwether of the global left to see if there is any meaningful response to the resurgence of right-wing authoritarianism and white supremacy that was allowed into power by groups like the Lib Dems in the UK and the Democratic establishment here in the United States, and left to be cleaned up by leftists across the globe. So we'll keep our eye on that.
Go to www.patreon.com/The BPD Show and support The Benjamin Dixon Show.
So I'm not sure if yesterday was just like an all-time best show, but whatever it was, we've got 7 new patrons. So that means a new patron party. Come on. All right, let's do this. Special shout out to Wayne Biggs. Thank you so much for becoming a patron. Kendrell Hamilton, thank you for becoming a patron. Braxton Meyer, you rock, my friend. Thank you for becoming a patron. Jace Thor, thank you for becoming a patron. Thaddeus Andry, I see you, man. Thank you for becoming a patron. Brother Philip Cole, thank you for becoming a patron. And last but not least, Tim, no last name. Thank you for becoming a patron. I do believe that is 7 new patrons on episode 770. Now, I'm not going to get all mystical on you and religious and all that type of stuff, but what we will do, what we gonna do, is we're gonna party for the next 7 seconds. Let's go. It's too early in the morning for this. It is too early in the morning. Go to www.patreon.com/The BPD Show and join in the madness. Okay. Listen to this clip of Michelle Obama.
I think you're friends with both Ellen and my dad. Yes. And they sat next to each other, which caused some sort of online backlash. Your husband recently talked about the dangers of cancel culture.
Yeah.
What do you say to people that want to be closer with each other?
I had an opportunity to sit by your father at funerals, the highs and the lows, and we shared stories about our kids and about our parents. Our values are the same. We disagree on policy, but we don't disagree on humanity. We don't disagree about love and compassion.
But I think that's literally what we disagree on. George W. Bush, the man who destabilized the entire globe for generations to come. George W. Bush, the man who brought, I don't know if there was a time where America was known for our torture. We tried to pretend like we were noble before, but we certainly dispensed with all sense of nobility and in any sense of a just war and engaged in enhanced interrogation. I mean, we literally are talking about a difference of opinions on humanity and love and compassion, literally the difference. And I guess the question is, has he been absolved of, well, he hasn't paid for his crimes. So how can you be absolved of something that you haven't made penance for? More importantly, I tweeted out yesterday about this and just making it clear that if this is who you have the same values as, then Michelle Obama is someone that we can't rock with. Now, a lot of people are like, well, Ben, you obviously haven't been paying attention to all the reports that have been coming out about the Obama administration. No, I literally have, to say literally at least the sixth time in this segment. The thing is when someone is beloved in your community and in this nation, it's not even just the black community that loves Michelle Obama. She's like, I think year after year, one of the most popular women in the world. When someone is so beloved, you have to, for you to move the Overton window on someone who is so beloved, you have to be delicate with that. You have to be methodical and delicate because we do need people to see the Obamas for what they really are or what they have become. Whether they were that the entire time is arguable. I don't care what they have become. At this juncture, they are rewriting history on behalf of the most destructive president in our lifetime and arguably probably in American history. And a man who has the blood of hundreds of thousands of Iraqi citizens on his hands, thousands of American troops, their lives, the blood of their lives are on his hands. And here she's talking about, see, what's really happening, there's a couple things. Of course, there's a class solidarity with uber rich people, but there's more so than just the wealth. There's class solidarity with people who are satisfied with the way things are. And they are here to protect the institutions that we currently have. Not just the actual literal institutions like protect the Supreme Court or protect the Senate, but also to protect the regime. This is where you can see the one party system. And the Democrats and the Republicans are just opposite side of the same coin. This is a regime that will not prosecute itself, will not hold itself accountable, because why would it? Because they all operate within a margin of error. Ever so, they're never going to move too far to the left ever, but they certainly gradually progress towards the right. And so this is more than class, because there's plenty of poor people who agree with this current regime that we have. And Bernie Sanders, to a great extent, and to a much lesser extent, Elizabeth Warren represents a challenge to that regime. And the only reason I even include Elizabeth Warren at this juncture is because of how much the establishment is pushing back against her. Like they're trying to get her completely out of the paint. And to me, that signifies that she is a threat to this regime, even if it's just the most minute. And that's the thing. When I say the system operates within a margin of error, like they are not going to move anything outside of what makes them comfortable. They will fight back against it. And that's what we saw on display yesterday. That's why it was like, we can all be kumbaya because we believe in the regime, in the institution of the military industrial complex. Like, we disagree on policy, but we agree. No, the policy disagreements have tangible consequences on the lives of billions of people. We can't agree on that. But because she is so beloved, you have to be extremely delicate if you want to change someone's mind about her, right? You can't just come out and say, I'm going to be honest. I guess there's an artist by the name of No Name. I know maybe I should know her because there's been like a lot of ruckus around her, but you can't do like her. She came out and said, the Obamas are the feds. Well, okay, no, you can do like that, right? Because there are going to be people who recognize that and they're going to co-sign that and alley-oop it and all that good stuff. But the people who need to be convinced, you have to be subtle. You have to be methodical. You have to be patient and show your despair with the fact that I cannot believe that Michelle Obama is actually in league with the most dangerous or the most destructive president in our lifetimes. And here she is absolving him. So that should really, that's really bad, Michelle. We can't really hang with you. If you're going to do that, we can't hang with you. I'm sharing that whole last segment I'm sharing that for the benefit of the people who really are like, why can't people see who the Obamas are? Well, they can't see who the Obamas are because you are attacking. Well, honestly, think about it like this. If someone bringing critique of Bernie Sanders to most of you in my audience, I mean, there's really on most days you would never accept it, but you certainly won't accept it if someone came with vitriol. And so my suggestion to everyone is if you want the world to see who the Obamas have become, well, don't shout about it. Just share your story about how disappointed you are in the fact that Michelle Obama sat on national TV, international television, and absolved the most destructive president in our lifetime and arguably in American history, absolved him by saying we have the same morals and the same values. No, Michelle, we simply do not. And if you do, that means that our values are different than yours. Okay. This is coming from Chula Vista, California. WIS News 10, the local station there. They are reporting that an organization called Doctors for Camp Closure is a group of doctors that oppose detention of migrants and refugees attempting to enter the United States. They protested with about 70 people yesterday, including physicians outside of the Chula Vista, California facility Monday. The protest began after the Customs and Border Patrol denied the organization's request to give flu vaccinations to detained migrants. Now, as you recall, the Bush administration, I'm still stuck on Bush, the Trump administration is denying some basic needs like the flu shot. And so this organization went to provide them with the flu shot. And according to this report, several protesters could be seen on video blocking both driveways of the facility by lying down. They say that they were spreading the message that basic health care and hygiene is a human right. And this is a quote from one of the doctors saying, quote, people die of the flu, but the people who have died of the flu in CPB custody, it was simply preventable, according to Dr. Julie Sierra. Keeping people in hygienic conditions and not overcrowding them and giving them soap and access to showers that can help prevent illness. But nothing prevents the flu like a flu vaccine. And they were arrested for doing something as simple as trying to avoid letting people in your custody die. This is the regime. In the last segment, I talked about the regime that operates within a margin of error. here's the margin of error. We caged people underneath Obama. But now we've escalated just outside of the margin of error for the last administration. And now they're denying those people flu vaccinations. You see what I'm saying? So, because it's just outside of the margin of error, there is going to be a strong possibility that if someone worse than Trump comes along, that in 10 years, they will be loving on Trump the way they're loving on Bush. Because there's no central grounded sense of morality of right and wrong. It is all about protecting this current regime. This current regime that is represented both by the Democratic establishment and the Republican Party. And it includes putting people in cages. And here's the other thing that includes. It includes constant increases to our military budget. And I know that has nothing directly to do with the story that I just read, but in the sense it does, because it shows a consistency across every administration within a margin of error. This is why we always talk about the Democrats being too much like the Republican Party, particularly on economic policy, because they do the same thing Republicans do, just within a margin of error. Maybe we wouldn't have dropped capital gains tax down to 15% underneath the Democratic Party, but they would have been around 20%, right? So the problem is that we have become too comfortable. We have become too comfortable with the system that rewards a small group of people and gives us nothing but the crumbs from the table. And that system that rewards that group of people, or rather that group of people that is rewarded the most by the system, they get their wealth. They derive their wealth from activities like this. I mean, there are for-profit businesses that are in charge of these facilities. There are companies that are making thousands of dollars a day. I think the number was ridiculous, like $1,000 a day per detainee, or was it $2,700? They are. This is a cash cow. The mistreatment of people, human lives, is a cash cow business for somebody, and that somebody has investments in politicians. This entire system is disgusting and a distortion of what humanity could and should be. But it is the regime that is in power. And our only opportunity to change it is by voting them out of power. The last thing that we need to do is to say, oh, this system sucks, so I'm not participating in it. But that is giving them literally exactly what they need, so that administration after administration, they commit crimes against humanity, and nobody. That's why Nancy Pelosi didn't really want to impeach Donald Trump. That's why she wouldn't impeach George W. Bush. Because they want to protect the system. And the only difference is Republicans have become a death cult willing to burn it all down for the sake of their power. And it's a shame that we honestly have to do harm reduction. It's like Adolph Reed, his article back in 2016, he said, please vote for the lying, warmongering neoliberal, talking about Hillary Clinton, because of harm reduction. Because as bad as the Bush, as bad as the Clinton administration was in American history, particularly on economic policies, as bad as Obama was, particularly on sustaining and expanding the wars in the Middle East, we actually have people who want to do even worse. So last but not least, America is not a meritocracy. We like to fool ourselves into thinking that America is the place where if you work hard enough, if you are the smartest, if you are the hardest working, if you are the one that's the most dedicated, if you give it your all, you will rise to the top. Well, I played a clip today of Michelle Obama being interviewed by one of the Bush daughters. I don't care to know which one it was. Maybe it was the one that got a DUI. But why? Okay. Why is she on the Today Show? Why is Meghan McCain or Abby, whatever Abby's last name is, Huntsman? Why are they on The View? What achievements have they had that warrants them being put on national platforms, paid ridiculous salaries that they, quite frankly, don't need because their families are so filthy rich, but they're put on platforms for what reason? Like, what does their resume say that suggests that they should be there? That's how you know we don't live in a meritocracy, because the people who are elevated to be above us are people who do not have the skill nor the resume to warrant them being in the places that they are. Pete Buttigieg, a mayor from one of the smallest cities in the country. I think at most he got 8,000 votes in his last election. And now he is like the number 2, 3 spot for president of the United States, who has no central guiding principle about him, who literally everyone knows, including his team, that he's going to go with whatever is popular enough for him to get some support so that he can be president one day. If America was a meritocracy, we wouldn't even know this guy's name. And I'm telling you, I know it's not a meritocracy because some of the most talented people in the world, in this country, can barely get an opportunity to get ahead. And no, I'm not talking about me. I'm talking about some of the amazing people that I have met, some of the most brilliant people that I know on this. I mean, people who make me look like an amateur, and we don't even know their names on the national level. But yet we're stuck with people like Meghan McCain, people like the Trump children. No discernible skill set other than they were born rich. That is the reality of America. While the rest of us not only have to be extremely educated, we have to be extremely talented, and then hell, we have to be extremely lucky just to survive. Not necessarily to get ahead, because so few of us actually get ahead, just to survive. I never want to hear another person talk about America. All you have to do is work hard. Bullshit. The hardest working people get the least in this country. The people who work the hardest are always at the bottom. The people who put in the most hours are always at the bottom. Our entire system is upside down. Entirely upside down. And to be quite honest with you, we have the ability to change it, not just to be upset about it, not just to be angry, not just to shout in microphones, not just to collect patrons off of helping you to understand the problem. We actually can change this. There are so many more of us than there are of them, and we can create a society the way the masses believe the society should be. We have our work cut out for us because we have to unbrainwash. We have to deprogram people who honestly believe that this system is going to reward them if they just work a little bit harder. People who bought into the 90s and the early 2000s, all those inspirational, motivational, self-help, guru style bullshit that, you know, told them if they just work this pyramid scheme really, really hard, then they can be super successful. And when in fact, it literally was, those are literally scams that are the best representation of America. America is a pyramid scheme where people who are at the top benefit from all the people who are scrapping at the bottom. And then you realize the people at the top don't deserve to be there because they have neither the skill nor the talent or even a fraction of the drive as the people at the bottom. But we absolutely have to change the system, and we have the capacity to change the system. And we do that by not only deprogramming millions of people, we do that by elevating people, amplifying people who have at the core of them the interest of the masses. People who put others before themselves. People whose purpose in life is to help others. Not just people who understand that language and understand how to manipulate that language You got to watch out for those charlatans, but there are real people out here who will go and fight for someone that they don't know as hard as they will fight for themselves.
The Benjamin Dixon Show is only possible with listener support. Go to www.patreon.com/The BPD Show and support The Benjamin Dixon Show. If you like this episode, be sure to share, like, and subscribe.